Yo, what up? How y'all doing? I just left the gym, got a nice little workout in. Mostly doing arms today. But yeah, I know that sounded horrible. These roads are trash. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about our greatest gift as people, rationality. Oftentimes you see a lot of people, they're very guided by their emotions. Like, you ask a person why they want to make so much money or whatnot. They might not have a clear-cut answer, but deep down, most likely to, obviously there's the comfort that money provides. But in all likelihood, it is to please the next man. It is to please their neighbor. It is so they, in the eyes of other people, can look as if they are above. Now that happens to all of us. Every single person. I'm not talking specifically about the money thing, but I'm talking about emotions taking over our rationality. Because emotions, in simple terms, are our first line of survival instinct. You know, when you see a reptile on the floor and you get near him and then he gets startled, runs away really fast, right? That's his emotion. That's his emotion that has overridden his natural state. That emotion there is to help us. You know, it helps the lizard get away. It helps the mouse get away from the hawk that's eyeing it from above. Our emotions are very necessary in order for us to survive. But the thing about human beings is we've gotten to a point where we have multiple modes of thinking. As in, there is the emotional thought, which is the base standard for animals. And then we now have this cognitive flexibility that allows us to talk, that allows us to communicate our ideas. So now we have two conflicting modes of thinking in our head. We have the rational thought, and we have all this garbage going on. Yeah, we have the rational thought and we have the emotional thought. The rational thought is actually, I messed that up. That little traffic jam back there messed me the fuck up. We have our emotional thinking, and then we have our verbal thinking. The verbal thinking can be influenced by both the emotional side and the rational side. It just all depends on what mode of thought you choose to ride in. Because at the end of the day, all of this is a choice. Now, there is no way we can naturally get rid of all of our emotions. No way. There's no way we can even, just completely override it 100% of the time, all the time. There's no way to do that. But what we can do is we can place rational thought as the highest mode of thinking to ourselves. Because without you mentally placing rationality above the emotional thinking, then there's no reason for your brain to rely more on rational thinking. Let me put it like this. You naturally know that rational thinking is better than emotional thinking. You know, making your decisions based off logic and based off actual thinking is way better than basing your thoughts and your actions off of emotions. But if you do not consciously tell yourself stuff like that, if you do not consciously place rational thought above the emotion, then there's no way for the rational thought to override the emotion, because it's one of those situations where your brain's like, yeah. It's like, you ever been asked to do something and then you're just like, yeah, I'll get it done. You know damn well you're not getting it done, but you're just like, yeah, I'll get it done. Just to get it out your face, you're like, yeah. That's essentially what you're doing with this rational thinking versus emotional thinking. If you do not consciously place the rational thought above, then the emotional thinking is just going to be there. It's just going to always consciously override everything, because that is the baseline. That's the baseline of us humans. The best thinkers, the best people, the people who have progressed society the most are the people who are the most rational. Now, that's not to say that they do not have any emotion, that they're completely void of emotion, but what they've done is they've completely understood their emotions, and they aren't controlled by them. They use rational thought to control their lives, Like, let's take, for example, Marcus Aurelius. We know about his thought process because people found his diary or his journal, and they published it. It's called Meditations. And Marcus Aurelius always talks about being rational, not letting the monkey mind take over, allowing yourself to really take a step back, process your emotions, understand where they're coming from, breathing that in, breathing through all those emotions, going through the wave and the sea of emotions, and coming to a rational conclusion. This is why he was one of the most renowned Roman emperors of all time, because he didn't get into these stupid qualms and these stupid fights over ego and over proving himself as the best emperor and proving himself as the most capable. What he did is he brought a large period of peace and prosperity because he understood that emotions really have no place in good leadership. Now, there's always been emotional leaders. There's always been the Hitler type. A lot of people, I've even had this question before. It's like, how can someone so shit, and by shit I mean like just a horrible human being, how can such a horrible human being in Adolf Hitler inspire and arouse so many people to follow his cause? That's because he understood that most people don't think rationally. Most people are guided off their emotions. So when you look at his speeches from back in the day, you can see he's very animated. He's very blah 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 blah. He's very out there. It's because he understood that all those theatrics will override the rationality of a person, and their emotional side will align with that. Because it's sort of like Donald Trump. I was a little younger when Donald Trump, he was elected into the office, but I remember all the people around me, college friends, everybody was like, how the fuck is he getting blah 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 blah? Everybody was just going crazy, very crazy, and that's how inflammatory of a character he is. He arouses that flame in people, irregardless of if you hate him or if you love him, he's taking that flame out of you. But as I was saying, why he got elected is because his ability to ride on people's emotions was so fucking strong that he was a natural at it. You could see it in his speeches. He often wouldn't talk about very specific things besides building the wall and sending these people back to their countries, blah 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 blah, blase blase. But what he did is he talked about very loaded words. He talked about making America great again. He talked about truth. He talked about justice. He talked about all these different things. And when you take these words and use them, because they are loaded words, it's very hard for people to argue against it. By being so general with his words, he was allowed to tap into the minds of all these different peoples, because all these different loaded words mean different things to different people. So as long as he doesn't contradict himself in that same sentence, he's allowed to basically penetrate the minds of people and get them onto his side, which it's crazy when you think about it. If you can become such a wordsmith, oh God, that would have been an accident. Bro, that would have been death. If you saw that guy in the white shirt back there, that was death waiting for him. But yeah, so you have to be rational. You have to consciously practice your rationality at all times, because without rationality, one, you cannot come to your own conclusions. You will always be influenced by the populace at large. You will always be into groupthink. You will always be a part of the matrix if you cannot be rational for yourself. If you cannot sit there and think and minus all the bullshit around you, like subtract all of people's opinions, subtract everything. If you could sit there and think, you are a very fucking dangerous man. Very dangerous. Especially nowadays, because the world is encroaching more towards a very in other words, I don't know how to describe it. Basically, the world is going towards everybody being like each other. Like, that is the general direction of the world. With this connectedness that that we've got through the internet, we have all these new archetypes of people coming up. But these new archetypes of people are actually branded archetypes of former, or actually branded types of former archetypes, if that makes sense. Let me not get into that too much. I want to save that for a different video. But what I was saying is, without rationality, you will fall in line. You will become one of the people who just follows everything daddy government has to say. One of the people who follows everything that the group has to say. You will not have opinions of yourself for yourself, and you will follow the line of a cookie gunner man. Now, not everybody thinks and is like, oh yeah, that's a bad thing, or is that's like, oh yeah, blah blah blah. So what? You know, there's blah 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 blah. We're all the people, blah blah blah. Who? I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, there will be a clearly defined template of people, and you will fall into line with that if you do not rationally think for yourself. Because this template is built off of manipulating people's emotions, you know? With current like SJW stuff, I know this is like, you know, what are we in 2016? But, you know, SJW stuff is still a thing. SJW stuff is a form of social conditioning because it takes what on surface level appears to be positive and it reinforces that. So it takes, like, you know, tolerance and non-bullying. It takes all these different things and it brands it, but it's being weaponized because, you know, there was times when we weren't tolerant of each other, but that produced results, that produced growth, that produced different people, that produced just all these different things. Have you ever heard the story of people who got bullied into being a great person? Within SJW world, we cannot be bullied into being a great person because we will be simply formed and tempered from birth to be this conforming, non-confrontational type of being, which is not beneficial for anybody at all. It's not beneficial to just be like the next man. Now, there are situations where we must adopt the ideals of the next man. You know, when you look at someone and you're like, yo, that's a nice characteristic about that, I like that. That's perfect time to group think. That's not really group thinking. You've come to that conclusion yourself. You've liked what you've seen, and then you've chose rationally to adopt that characteristic. Basically, what I'm trying to say with this entire video is you must put your rationality above everything. You must be rational, especially in a fucking world where rationality is very valued, because the average person isn't very rational. So if you become rational and you actually think about what you do, you are, one, a dangerous man, but two, you are a valuable asset. You are a valuable commodity in today's world, because the world is so backwards, you know? Like, I could get into all the bullshit different reasons, but like, I think we as people already know. We already see the bullshit that goes along. It's like with modern dating culture, you know, there's no incentive to being nice to each other and actually being adults, being rational, and progressing from there. All the benefit comes from dark traits, dark triad traits specifically, but it all comes from this darkness, right? And when you think about that, the darkness is not a rational thing. The darkness is a manipulation of emotion. Now, you can say someone used their rationality in order to get to that conclusion, to manipulate other people in order to get whatever you want. But I'd argue that's not rational, because yes, you've used the process of logic to getting to that conclusion, but you have not thought about the consequences. And even if you have, and you have not cared about the consequences, then that proves your rationality wasn't truly rational, because rationality encompasses everyone. It is not just a self-appreciating art. It is something that is to the mutual benefit of everyone in society. So if, I'll keep on the topic of the dating scene. If the dating scene is dominated by people who have to be very dark and very evil, basically, then you're not gonna get a good world. The rationality, I mean, everything about the world goes sour. It goes wrong. It goes evil. Oh, bus, relax. Thought this bus was about to crash into a car. That's the streets for you. You know, there's always some shit going on. But anyways, I'm gonna end the video here because I feel like I've nailed in the point about rationality enough to which you guys should understand that rationality is the highest ideal, is one of the highest ideals. You know, it's one of the highest modes of thinking for people. If the world at large was constantly dominated by their own rationality rather than their own emotions, would we have world hunger? Would we have all the homeless people who just literally can't find a job, can't find a house, can't find anything? No, we would not have any of that, because we'd be rational and we'd help our fellow man. And we'd realize that helping our fellow man actually promotes a better world for ourselves. Because what you put out is what you get back, you know? If you're putting out all the darkness, you're getting back the darkness. If you're putting out the light, you're getting back the light. As simple as that, bro. Like, it really is simple as that. Anyways, go be rational. It is an ongoing process, and you must work at it every day. You know, the rationality dominates all your thoughts and all your actions. And why I say that is because in reality, emotions are the ones that dominate that. But what you have to do is you have to take a step back. You have to analyze everything. You have to analyze, why does that anger you? Why does this arouse this sort of reaction in me? Why this? Why that? You have to analyze everything. Because once it may seem like a lot, right? Seems like a lot. Like, oh my God, I have to constantly be like, you know? No, you don't have to be constantly. What you have to do is keep working on it, and eventually it gets easier and easier and easier. And then one day you're just like, boom, I feel like a fully actualized person. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's really crazy. Anyways, I've said anyways like 5 different times. Anyways. Have a good one.